Fundamentals of Kabbalah, 3 factors in spiritual development. Hello everyone, with us is Rav Dr. Michael Lightman. Hello. And after we have completed a very fundamental basic course in the wisdom of Kabbalah, more than 30 lessons, now we'd like to begin a new course called Spiritual Work in a Kabbalistic Group. In Hebrew it's called Kabbalah Ma'asit, namely practical Kabbalah. Right. And on our first lesson, we'd like to go over 3 factors of spiritual development. The first factor is the teacher, as a necessary element and instructor for spiritual development. The second is the group. There needs to be a group of like-minded people. And the third factor are the source texts. And the first question is, we understand that a teacher is a person who gives knowledge, that sets an example, an educator. What is a teacher in the wisdom of Kabbalah? Why is it so important to have a teacher? Why aren't the source texts enough? It could also be a source text, possibly without a teacher. But overall, it's not enough. A teacher is he that is with you in the same world, and also, in addition, is also in the higher world, on a spiritual degree, in attainment of what he teaches you. You receive from the teacher knowledge in the form of printed texts, oral explanation, but he himself feels these concepts. Because in Kabbalah, we learn that which in our world can't be seen, heard, felt, smelled, in short, isn't perceived by any of our senses. So the teacher is he who has an additional sense, a spiritual sense, and who perceives what he teaches to the student. And the student perceives from the teacher only that which he can perceive in his corporeal senses, but gradually, over time, he receives from the teacher his attitude, closeness to those hidden spiritual concepts, forces that the teacher tells him about. And this way, the teacher becomes not only someone who gives him a certain measure of knowledge, but, in a sense, a conductor of the upper, higher energy from the higher level degree, which we call creator, to the student. Meaning, the teacher plays an additional role here, not simply like in our world, a talking head, but here precisely as the conductor of the upper light. Can we say that the teacher is an example or needs to be an example? He can't be an example in our world, because in no way is our world something that we can tie with the upper world. The teacher can be an example for the student only in terms of his devotion to the wisdom of Kabbalah, meaning not in the day-to-day life. I can't look at how my teacher behaves in the family. No. Today, these are completely different people under completely different circumstances. It doesn't matter. You can appreciate a person only according to his devotion to his goal. Okay, how do you choose a teacher? On our previous lesson, we said that there are several criteria. Like, for example, the teacher necessarily had to receive his knowledge from a well-known authority, meaning he can't simply get up at night and say, that's it, I'm a teacher, I can talk nicely. No. The communication of information has to be clear. So you always need to ask, who did you study with? Obviously, otherwise, what can you receive from him? Well, for example, example, he can speak nicely, he has lots of knowledge. It's difficult for a beginner to examine these things. It's examined only according to who did he come from, who did he study with. How do you choose a teacher? First of all, the student looks for a teacher according to his needs. I won't go study geography from someone who teaches, I don't know, music. It's different things. And thus, I choose a teacher according to my goal. First of all, my goal. When I already choose a teacher, meaning I necessarily need to find a Kabbalist. Why? Because there you study the wisdom of the attainment of the higher force, attainment of the higher governance, etc. The system of the governance of nature, scheme, the system that governs us, humanity, the universe, everything. Meaning, this interests me, so I need to find a teacher. I can find a million teachers like that. Which of them am I going to choose? So I need to choose the one that possibly, there can be different mistakes here, but that possibly he received his knowledge also from someone great. And then, because I'm blind, and so this is what I orient myself on. Meaning, who did they study with? I have, suppose, 20, 30 teacher candidates. Who did they study with? This is what interests me. There's another criteria, as I remember. There's the source text, that he teaches according to the source texts and not from himself. Yeah, many do so. There could be here different teachers with different source texts, with different methods. But I'm saying after I went through all of that, the main thing for me is nonetheless that I will learn from someone who was a direct student of a great Kabbalist of the supposed previous generation. So I checked, they teach according to source texts. From the 20, I chose 2 that did learn from a certified Kabbalist as much as I could examine it. And the question left is, can I trust my heart? Meaning my heart draws me more to this teacher. Suppose my intuition. Is it correct? Yes, you can. According to my intuition. Yes, if you checked everything else, then you can check also according to your heart. Who's closer to you? Where's the style, the language closer to you? Everything, in short. But you yourself said that human nature is the ego, and yes, but you checked everything else. And here the only thing left is our details. But my inner nature, can't it deceive me? No, but here we're no longer talking about the egoistic nature, but the general style, general language, closeness, understanding, etc. There could be many nuances here. So to trust my inner sense, feeling, to some extent, yes. Is it worthwhile switching a teacher? Suppose I start studying 2-3 years down the line for certain reasons. Suppose I see that I have nothing to learn from that teacher anymore, or I even know more than him. Things like that happen in our world, in music, sports, things like that. Does that happen here too? Yes, same thing happens here too, and it's very possible that you need to change your teacher. But again, you need to understand, who are you switching for whom? Either you're switching because you don't want to apply any more efforts and do something, or are you switching because really there's a true need for it, because with the old teacher you can't continue advancing. Is there some kind of a specific connection between the teacher and the student? The teacher is the conductor of the higher energy, higher light, upper knowledge to the student. And thus it's so important that he'll also be connected to his teacher, because this chain, it doesn't disappear. Previously, as I understand, there were small groups, there was a tight connection between the teacher and student. This is how it was for you as well. You were with your teacher all the time. Today, you have millions of students. And obviously, you know only few of them. The question is, what kind of connection is there today? It doesn't matter who I know. The matter is, which of them considers them to be my students. And in that measure, he aspires in his inner movement toward me, and that gives him contact through me with a higher force. So what's important is the student's attitude toward you. Okay, another question. A student needs to work on the importance of his teacher, and the teacher, to the contrary, always makes himself smaller in the eyes of the student. It's an interesting kind of communication, because in our world, it's to the contrary. In religion, everywhere, in all spiritual practices, to the contrary, the teacher needs to be great. This is how he behaves also. And in the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's the opposite. In the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's the opposite, because first of all, it's good for the teacher to make himself small in the eyes of his students, because by that, he spiritually grows. It's good to make yourself small in the eyes of your students, because in that you make room for them to do their work, for them to make you great, elevate you, for them to understand that that which seems in their eyes, well, not so standing out in their teacher, not so prominent, it's what their eyes see. And thus, this is something that they need to correct in themselves. So the teacher lowers himself. For him, it's good. The students, if they perceive him as small, for them it's very bad. That he makes himself small, it's not simply making himself small, but he intentionally shows his weaknesses. Intentionally, of course, otherwise, what will be with the students? Anyway, our eyes are corrupted. One way or another, we see all of a person's shortcomings, deficiencies. No, that's not enough. Here, everything needs to be exaggerated in order for the students to be able to rise above it. So by that, the teacher gives his students the freedom of will, of choice. And I'll tell you something else. For the teacher, it's actually very important that the students will ascend, on the one hand. But on the other hand, he's not bothered about himself. He's not some professor in the university that keeps score how many people come to his lectures. Meaning, either the Creator will bring students to me or not. I try to do, I need to do everything that I understand is necessary. But it's not about the number of students. And I need to show them all the problems I have in life. For example, I was the personal helper of my teacher in the 12 last years of his life. And I saw his entire life. He didn't hide anything from me. He lived, acted, did. I knew all of his weaknesses, all of his inner feelings, meaning as a human being, as a person. And in my eyes, it was a serious field of work to nonetheless raise myself above it and dissolve. Okay, the next factor for a person's spiritual development are the source texts. Throughout history, an enormous amount of source texts were written in the past 5 or 5,500 years. And what's interesting is that there are the source texts and there's a commentary to them. What's the commentary? By no means not to use any commentary, besides very special ones. There are source texts that were written also 2,000 and 3,000 years ago, and then 1,000 or 1,500 years later, a commentary was written to it, about it. So the commentary is also serious. It stood the test of time. And there are those that were written in our times by so-called Kabbalists, who declare themselves as Kabbalists. And thus, you should take into consideration that you can put all the Kabbalistic books in just several sources. It is the Book of Yetzirah, obviously the Tanakh, the Talmud Bavli, Mishnah in the Talmud Bavli, the Zohar, yeah, obviously, the Zohar, and a few books that were written in the period of the two Israeli kingdoms. And after that are the books of the Ari, that we read and the commentary to Ari's books by Bala Sulam, and the spiritual work that comes in addition to Bala Sulam, written by Rabash. So you recommend only the commentaries by Bala Sulam. Practically, we're left with Bala Sulam, with his commentary to the books of the Ari, and his commentary to the book of Zohar. And Rabash, with all of his letters and articles that tell about the spiritual work. The commentary itself, what is it? What does he commentate? He makes it, he simplifies it, opens it up. He opens it up. He scrutinizes it for us, obviously. That's all there is to it. We're Rabash not to write his articles about the spiritual work in the group. How do we need to do it all? Were he not to describe the entire spiritual work? This is practically the only thing that he wrote about. He took some little articles, excerpts from the Torah, from other sources, but it's only in order to show on them how to do the spiritual work. Well, as I understand, the sole reason for which we read these source texts is in order to draw upon ourselves the influence of these source texts on our nature, innate egoistic nature, for it to change. Right. So the question is, why commentate something? We don't understand anything anyway. No, but it's in order for us to be clearer how to act. So we do need to understand, because it's written that a person doesn't change through his knowledge. Doesn't matter if he understands or not. No, there are things that we need to organize in our day-to-day life, in the right connections between us, meaning in the group, the study, and everything else that's related to it. To the group and the study. Well, I'm asking about the source texts. Does it matter whether a person reads the Zohar or Bala Sulam's commentary to the Zohar, because he doesn't understand either? Bala Sulam, by his commentary to the Zohar, he brought it closer to man. The thing is that we had no commentary to the Zohar. Well, then it's for more advanced students, because for beginners, there's no difference. Zohar, the commentary to the Zohar, one way or another, a person doesn't understand what it means, because until he attains the very first spiritual degree, for him it's... The thing is, we need to understand that it's not an ordinary science or some scientific articles, works, but the thing is that a person who feels the Zohar, who's on the level of the book of Zohar, meaning he reveals the whole of creation, the system of governance of the forces that govern us, and he commentates them. He doesn't simply commentate, add some stories of his own, but he puts into his texts additional force that draws you, brings you closer to the attainment of those forces that the Zohar writes about. Meaning, it's not just in order to give you a few more sentences in order for you to understand. It's not at all about clarifying on the day-to-day level what the Zohar talks about, but to draw closer those forces that exist on the level of the book of Zohar, to make them closer to you, for them to better influence you. So, there were the people who wrote the book of Zohar 2,000 years ago. I read the commentary of Bala Sulam now, and that force that works on me while reading the commentary is more suitable for our generation, for us today. He took the book of Zohar and supplemented it a bit in order for it to influence you in the state that you're in your generation. Okay, that's clear. He put in certain forces of his that in the meantime I don't feel them neither here nor there. But these forces, they're closer to me, to our generation. The forces themselves, not the understanding of the book itself. Right, because it's impossible to understand neither. Also, I'd like to understand, do the letters themselves have some kind of force? Obviously. But the thing is that we're far from it. It's only after you start attaining the higher forces and their combination between them that you start seeing their alphabet their correct combination in the form of letters, numbers, different kinds of drawings that specifically retell you about the interaction of forces. And this way you start understanding the language. Is there some kind or some amount of necessary hours per day that a person needs to study? All of his free time. So it says? Otherwise, what was your life given to you for? Well, in order to enjoy. The purpose of creation is to enjoy. So enjoy. I wouldn't say that study is such a great pleasure, or at least it's one of the pleasures. To enjoy. To enjoy precisely the greatness of the Creator and that which He has created as the necessary system, thanks to which we reach and attain His degree. But a person himself needs to determine, like any other thing in life, he needs to decide how much time does he dedicate to the study. Is there some kind of a minimum amount? Or no, it simply says that the main thing is to define. The main thing is to define what is your free time. Free, meaning I have to sleep a certain amount of time, work a certain amount of time. Kabbalah obliges a person to work, nourish myself, take care of myself, etc. For all this, I need a certain amount of hours. But what do I do with the rest of the time? So, for the rest of the time, I have a very clear calculation that I will dedicate it only to the attainment of the Creator, meaning the Creator created me as an animal, and thus I need to exist this way, to work, eat, family, etc. And along with it, He also made me a man, meaning in the rest of my time, what I take care of is the man part in me. I'd like to ask about the Kabbalistic vocabulary, the terms. Is it necessary to study them by heart? Because Bala Sulam, he wrote a Kabbalistic dictionary where he gives a definition to those words. Is it necessary to learn them by heart or not? Because any beginner, whatever he reads, he materializes everything that the Kabbalistic source texts talk about. I don't think that you need to learn by heart words because we're not linguists that simply study the language this way. But to learn the words, it means to understand, attain their inner meaning. What are they talking about? And thus, here, there already needs to be specifically attainment. The inner meaning of the word needs to interest me. What does it talk about? What does it mean in the spiritual world? On what level? How to attain it? Because the word itself, even the letter, it talks about the combination of many forces that I need to accumulate in myself, create in me, connect in a certain order between them, and then I attain a letter, and another one, and another one, moving from one state to another, from one letter to another meaning. By that I start reading, I start understanding the meaning of the development of these states. What are they leading me to? And as a result, they turn into a word. A word is already a serious package of information. So to simply sit and study some dictionary, it's like if I want to learn English, I look in the Russian dictionary and look what it means in English. You don't do that. But when I read a text, nonetheless, it's preferable to know what a screen is. I need to know that the screen is some kind of an anti-egoistic quality, and Bala Sulam gives a definition to what it is. So it's good to look it up. Absolutely, that's the way to study, meaning both the meaning and the inner meaning at the same time. And the last factor of the spiritual development is the group, and all of our following lessons will dedicate to the subject of the group. What are the principles of building a group? Because actually, so it writes in all Kabbalistic sources, that the Creator, the higher force, is revealed precisely in the interactions between the friends in the group. And so, a few questions. First of all, what is a group? From the Kabbalistic point of view, obviously it's not the bodies, but what is it? The desire. A group is the accumulation of egoistic forces that are willing to step on their ego in order to create between them a net of forces similar to the Creator. Would it be correct to say that the group needs to direct a person toward the goal? That's already the consequence of it. Because if the goal is to attain the qualities of the Creator, which is bestowal, then where else can it become revealed? Only in the group. Because it can't become revealed toward the still or vegetative nature. Right, only in the group. I can't bestow to plants or rocks. Right. Another very important element is to cultivate the desire, meaning we need to increase the desire in the group. How does that happen? Meaning, when I understand that I need to attain the Creator, and in me there is only sheer ego, then along with it I understand and I accept that my development needs to occur in the group. For that I need to annul myself. Come to the group. Enter it. Become equal with them, and even lower than them, in order to start receiving the influence of the Creator, of the higher light, from them to me. Also, it's interesting, it's written in Kabbalistic texts that the Creator relates to me through the group. He has no particular relation to me. Never. Meaning it is particular, but through the group. If you can explain. Meaning the Creator appreciates a person only in the measure to which he dissolves in the group, adheres to it, and does everything in order to be the smallest of them all, the most beneficial, the most dissolvable in the group. Meaning all these events that happen to each person, it all passes either through the group or the whole of humanity. Not only that it goes through, the thing is that a person himself is not considered a person, but only in the measure to which he influences the group and ties them together in similarity to the Creator. In that measure, he's considered a man. Meaning, there's no talk about a single individual, but only about a 10 that come together in order to become like one, like the one. Meaning the Creator doesn't see a person as a body. No. The quality of bestowal cannot relate to something that is less than 10. It's simply not realized in a smaller quantity. Is there a difference between where the Creator relates to me through the group or through the whole of humanity? No, it's one way or another through the group. So through humanity, the group, and then to me. Okay, and how then to see the signs of the Creator through the group? Specifically, your interaction with the group, your inclusion in the group gives you the signs of the Creator. So something happens. It's said that in every given moment I can recognize the actions of the Creator according to your relation with the friends and the friends' relation to you. Between yourselves and the connection between you, you will start revealing the Creator's relation to you. In life, there are certain events through which it is practically impossible to understand. What does the Creator want to tell me? You don't need it. You need to act yourself. What do you want to tell the Creator? Meaning, suppose a person lost his job, or he can't find, well, if you'll start looking for answers to these questions, yeah, but it bothers a person. He can't find a spouse. No need. You need to say that it all comes from the Creator, and this is what I need to do. The main thing is forward. And no matter if he pushes you away, still you go forward to him. So you're saying that there's no connection between what a person gets in life, the different blows that he experiences, etc., and what he does in the group. No, there's no connection, because the blows that we get, they could be completely for others, connected through many, many different systems. The system of the general soul includes absolutely everything and everyone, the still, vegetative, animate, human nature, and all of their states. How can you understand it now? So I want to be righteous. Try, simply don't ask about nothing. And I get blows for others. That doesn't matter. You'll say thank you for it. Okay? Probably better to end the show here. So, in order to understand what you just explained, I think that we'll have another 20 lessons on which we will examine how, through the group, to reveal the signs of the Creator. Will I be able to understand? You will be able to recognize them. What the Creator wants to tell me. Yes, only in my relation to the group and the friends, how I relate to them, they relate to me, and how I'll need to scrutinize it all. In that, I will discover the language of the Creator. So, we'll go over the communication with the friends in the group, after which I'll understand the communication with the Creator. I'll understand why, how, and for what purpose the Creator relates to me the way that He does. Right. Okay, thank you very much. Till next time, all the best.